Hey everybody. Now that I just started, I have a big loud bee. So I'm sorry I'm late. I had a hard time finding some glasses. It took me like 20 minutes. So we are talking about Moon Venus aspects today in the Moon Venus aspects today in the natal chart. Um, we talk about these a lot in my apprentice group because these are common aspects to have. And you're ready for roasting. Well, you might get it, sweetie. The moon moves a lot in um, comparison, to the other planets. It moves a lot of points per day. Um, so moon aspects to planets in general, it's common for us to have those in our charts. Moon Venus aspects are not they're not as common as Sun Venus aspects, but they are not uncommon. Certainly not uncommon. So, what is the moon? The unconscious feelings, our internal memory systems, our unconscious feeling judgments. The record that we keep, what's familiar. And it has to do with the mother and our upbringing. It's of the fourth house. It's what we inherit, the early emotional influences in our life. So our habitual emotional patterns, that's the moon in a nutshell. Hey, everybody. Oh, Michael, you're lucky. You've got a conjunction. We probably won't talk about you much. Maybe. I will touch on the easy aspects, but typically it's the difficult aspects that most people ask about on my channel. And that's a good point, Imogene. They are naturally square. That's their natural angle. We always want to note that when we are talking about aspects. What is the natural angle? What is the accidental angle? Natural angle is a square between these two. So anything that you have, any aspect that you have that is not the square is going to be the accidental angle that they make. So they do naturally have a conflictual energy, the two. Venus is a superficial actor compared to the moon. But it doesn't mean that it's any less meaningful. It doesn't have any less weight. Venus is our preferences. It's what we want. The moon is our needs. And we can get those two things confused or not be really clear about where one begins and the other one ends. When we have these difficult aspects, even with the easy aspects, we can get it confused, but we don't have a difficult outcome that we have to contend with. That can be those easy aspects can be part of a complex of other things where the confusion between wants and needs could negatively lend itself to something else it's connected to. But in itself, the easy aspects don't imply a problem. They don't imply a conflict that we are going to have to find some creative resolution to or grow our way out of. The difficult aspects do show a hard time with getting wants and needs met in a way that we don't have a conflict, or we don't have to do some kind of unfavorable or distasteful trade-off or sacrificing. So we experience a massive amount of emotional dissatisfaction or sensual dissatisfaction, and or both, with the hard aspects. We can't get what we want. And it shows up vastly differently in men and women. Because of the meaning of the moon and Venus. Those mean feminine figures or female figures. But you can have some of the themes of both in same-sex attractions, because we have some overlapping of roles there. It's actually more complex in same-sex attractions, in my opinion. So, Venus is what we prefer. Yeah? It's what we find beautiful. It's what we want to buy. It's what we want to spend our time and our attention and our money on, and it's sensual gratification. It's the girlfriend. It's what we date and prefer. The moon is what we marry. If we're looking this at things in the context of a man. If we're looking at things in the context of a woman, Venus is what we prefer. It's how we date. It's what we buy. It's how we look in a more casual, aesthetic sense. What we spend our money on, our time, our attention. But the moon is more the behavior, our motherly behavior. The emotional needs that we have. The habitual emotional patterns, which could be very different than our sensual patterns. But in both men and women, Moon Venus hard aspects represent dissatisfaction. With the men, it's dissatisfaction that they find with the love that they get from women. And with women, it's dissatisfaction in the love that they get from men or women, if we're in a same-sex situation. So we're learning over the course of time how to bring these two things together. How to have wants and needs both met. So we don't feel like we're either like angry because the one is in conflict with the other, or we don't feel like there's been some kind of sacrifice that really causes a mourning or a hole or we're missing something. Because we don't believe we can have it all. That's the thing. Sorry, I'm surrounded by pots that I have to put away. We don't feel like we can have it all. That's the belief. We were raised by a mother. If we were a man with these hard aspects that was not able to be satisfied, or with the in conjunction, she sacrificed a lot. There's usually a combination of sacrificing a lot and not being able to be satisfied. So there's this expectation, this unhappiness, this expectation of unhappiness that is, yeah, related to women, mothers, motherhood, domestic situations, wives, and girlfriends. And with women, we grew up with a role model, a feminine role model, a mother that, yes, was sacrificial, uh, didn't get her needs met, and was in a situation where often it was impossible. That correct need exchange, satisfaction exchange was impossible because of the nature of the relationship with the father, or the masculine figure. So the sun was often in service to filling the emotional or sensual gap. When dealing with the mother, oh my God. I might have to take you inside, guys, because the wind came up incredibly, incredibly hard there. So I think I'm going to have to take you inside or take you up on the porch. So I'm going to cover my lens and we're going to move, okay? Okay, so we are going to go somewhere it's a little less wild. So somebody had asked in the comments starting about the parallel. That is a thing. You have to look at that as a conjunction, or the contra-parallel. You have to look at that as an opposition. All right, I think this will suit us better here. All right, hello. You're in my messy bedroom. Oh, Imogene, I thought of this because Moon Venus aspects. Because, sorry guys, I know that was discombobulating. We had the moon at the south node today, and it just reminded me of being stuck in conditioned emotional patterns. All right, so because we didn't have a role model that was easily satisfied, or sometimes didn't have access, a lot of times didn't have access to getting her needs satisfied, there's that expectation that it's always going to fall short. Relationships are going to fall short. Finances are going to fall short. Sensual fulfillment's going to fall short. Emotional fulfillment's going to fall short. And we have to deal with themes of settling for what we can get on one end or the other, either physically and sensually or emotionally. Because there's a feeling of, continually craving more sugar, not getting enough sugar, not getting enough of the love, the attention. These can be extremely needy aspects to have. And that doesn't mean that they can't be solved. They often can, definitely can. But we do have to work through some of our emotional immaturity for everybody. There's going to be some themes of the settling or making decisions and being loved by people who can't satisfy us, who either don't have the capacity, which is very common, or they don't have the willingness. Or like in the case of the in conjunction, they don't return our affections. Semisexual in conjunction, that's the most common theme, is that will be a lot of unrequited love or unreturned desire, unmet emotional needs, that can lead to loneliness. These can be very, very lonely patterns to deal with. It's so with men and women. Women deal with it differently. They tend to become more social or involved as they get older, as they solve these, or even if they don't solve these, that can often be the behavior that we'll see, is gravitating more towards friends, more towards groups, um, you know, not embracing as much aloneness as perhaps we could when it comes to being best for contemplation or introspection. Men handle these difficult aspects unsolved very differently. You get a lot of incel behavior and thinking and um, decisions that lead more to isolation and to loss of social contact, loss of relationships, and and blame, a lot of blame uh, on the people who didn't return feelings, women, mother figures. It can become very difficult to combat these kinds of patterns when they start to set in, because there has been a repeated experience of not having affections or love returned. And yeah, men with these aspects, even early on, even in their 20s and 30s, very early on in life, they can become extremely bitter, which is so interesting because they're such loving boys. They're the boy that would pick you wildflowers and bring them home to his mother. They're the boy who wanted to help. They were the boy that reached out. They were the young man that in his early dating years gave everything. He was the guy that did the best he could. He called. He was a bit anxious, but he was there because he wanted love. But depending on the aspect, it wasn't returned for different reasons. With squares and oppositions, it's typically because there is an emotional weakness within the man that is projected. With the in conjunction, we tend to look for women or feminine figures if it's a same-sex attraction that are more emotionally mature or more together, or an older person, either in spirit or chronologically. Um, but there's something about the mother that is attractive in it. So when that doesn't work out, when that isn't returned, because it's not an appropriate person to go after in the first place. It's not a it's not it's a choice that lacked discernment in the first place, in who was going to be a good candidate to be able to return our affections, or take care of our needs, or to, be a good fit. So in the first place, there's an issue with discernment, because there is an attraction to what is unavailable, or what is seen as more mature, or more, solid, or there's a pedestaling going on here. So because of the nature of inconjunctions, they go from one extreme to the other. And oppositions are like that too, but inconjunctions are worse in how they don't reference the other side. With oppositions, we go back and forth. There's more of an obviously bipolar action there. But inconjunctions are where we are fully committed to one side, and we're completely shutting out the other need. So with try, men with the in conjunction between Moon and Venus, try, and do everything we can. I mean, they will do everything. They will roll out the red carpet. They will do everything. And they will still not have their affections, their love returned. And it creates an opposite kind of person, the reaction. I did everything I could. I was a good man. I was a nice guy. And look what happened to me. And it can often be too that they will get involved with women who are kind of cruel, or have some emotional problems. They were not a good choice to begin with. And there isn't a lot of responsibility that is taken, if any, when we go to the bitter side with this in conjunction. There can be years or even a lifetime of isolation, loneliness, and that sweetness, that willingness, that need for affection, and the ability to give it, because it's within these men. That is, it's locked away, and replaced with hurt and blame and bitterness, and lack of contact. So it's this beautiful potential, within a lonely man. And he knows that that is there, but he's so angry and sad that nobody else can recognize that. And so we have to work on these stories of who did what to us and why, and take responsibility for our own choices and the people that were the people that we tried to love. And not to say that there weren't some good people or couldn't be good choices. There could be. But we'll have to examine what was our role in things. How could things have gone differently if we had been different and if we made a different choice? And then be willing to try again. That's hard to do because it's a sweetheart. We've got we're sensitive with these difficult Moon Venus aspects. Yeah, these are sensitive men, and you wouldn't think it after they've gone to the other side and become bitter, but it's there to mask that sweetness. So, yeah, opposition, square, uh, sesquiquadrate, we can get very similar themes. The opposition tends to be more outright accusatory, and um, a lot of stories about um, women or feminine figures wanting a lot of, put it, um, money. I'll just put it simply. We have a Madonna whore complex that is very, very thick with Moon Venus oppositions. You can get that with the in conjunction. There can be a strong belief in women being in relationships for the transaction, for the buck. It's about the satisfaction. And depending on the signs and other aspects, that may be something that is strongly supported. We'll see, especially if we have Saturn involved. There can be a belief that, yeah, that's the way things are. That's the way things go. We just make a deal. And that's the safest way to do things. And we're just being honest, right? Well, if that's what you prioritize, if that's your value, then yeah, you're being honest. And men with the opposition can very strongly break up the role of mother and girlfriend. So we don't want to soil the mother. We don't want to soil the wife with our actual sexual needs or sexual expression. And so they can feel like, I got to get it out, before I settle down. Because after that, the only thing that's allowed is vanilla. And that's their idea that they're going in there with. That's how women should be. But then they'll get in the relationship and be really mad that it's just vanilla. But that's what they do believe, that a proper, respectable wife figure, long-term girlfriend figure, someone that you would want to call your mate, you know. If you enjoy it, you're a whore. But then they get with you and they're really upset because they really wanted a whore behind closed doors. But wives shouldn't be like that. You can't win with the opposition. You cannot win. Uh, Splitting it up is common. That doesn't mean that all men with the opposition will visit prostitutes, but there is often, if not the actual behavior, the fantasy of it. So they could sacrifice one or the other more strongly. With an opposition, we can sacrifice more towards the moon, give up our sensual stuff, or sacrifice the moon and choose more the sensual and have less of the emotional needs actually met. And we're going to get a bit of both with the opposition. You can't. You can't make them happy. And they think that women, you just can't make them happy. And they deserve less. Maturity can come. Maturity can come. It doesn't always, but enough time spent alone, men with these difficult aspects will have to compromise or cooperate or stop being such a whiny little bitch. That's what it really comes down to. You get the whiny ass little bitch ass behavior out of men with these hard aspects. And they have a lot of love to give. These guys have every reason to expect a good relationship if they can get their shit together and start acting like a little baby and blaming other people for their lack of emotional connection. Because you're dealing with a dude that has the emotional capacity of a 13-year-old, but he goes after a woman or chooses a woman with the emotional capacities of Jiddu Krishnamurti. And then when he can't land it, he blames her. Instead of developing the capacities that allow him to get what he wants. Hold on, I have to let the girls in. Somebody's coming in the driveway. Oops. No, girls, come inside. Come inside. Come in. Yes, you too, little man. All right, no, somebody's coming in the driveway. All right. So there's nothing wrong with these guys other than they've been hurt and they have folded up in on themselves. And they're going to have to decide, are they going to continue to whine about their broken heart? Or are they going to grow up and start looking again for something that is appropriate and that does meet both needs, emotional and physical needs? And especially with the opposition in conjunction, the square isn't as bad. Cisco Kudre can be a little nasty. They are looking for the woman to heal them. They're looking for the mother or the girlfriend to heal them. That's the job of women, to support them, to fix it, to cook, to clean, to repair. And when that doesn't happen, it can become a very vicious cycle of belief system. So if a dude with these hard aspects is too far gone, you can't make a dent. But there are a lot of men, even with the difficult aspects, that do grow out of these and that do take responsibility for their own feelings and soothe themselves. 'Cause that's the thing is they want some kind of feminine figure, mother figure, girlfriend figure to soothe them. They don't soothe their own feelings. They don't soothe their own sensual needs. And who's to blame? The woman who won't have sex with them, or the woman that society won't require to marry them. Um, yeah, the square, there is an awful lot of affection in somebody with the Moon Venus square, men with the Moon Venus square. There's a lot to give. And if this is solved, it, it can be somebody that is very ready to please and knows how to do it. They get good results. They get the appreciation that they want and deserve. They get the recognition, the reward, the validation, the love, the affection they want and deserve. And with all the hard aspects, that's what it can turn into. Mm, a lush life. The easy aspects, it's just easy to get those needs met. Generally women love us. Um, it's an easier time of getting fed when it comes to sensual pleasure and beauty. We can attract a beautiful woman, a sensual partner, and there isn't a problem with a Madonna whore complex. We don't have a hard time seeing a respectable wife as somebody who can and should happily satisfy all of our wants and needs because there's nothing wrong with it. And so you don't have the splitting up of the roles of, mother and girlfriend. The wife is allowed to be beautiful. She's allowed to be attractive. She's even allowed to say no without that man losing his mind and taking it so personally. He's got to call his mother. I know I'm a little bit obnoxious. The quintile, Joelle, it's a little bit of both. Quintiles are active. We're actively trying to develop something as we are with the difficult aspect, but there's also something that comes naturally easy that puts some wind in our sails that we don't usually get with all other hard aspects. All right, so women with the hard aspects between Moon and Venus, they don't get their needs met either because they give also too much. There is a neediness, a hypervigilance, a anxiousness, as with men, that can lead to jumping the gun when it comes to choosing partners. We can settle for less. We can settle for situationships, cursory involvement, hot and cold players, weak hot and cold player shit, like 16-year-old shit, 20, 30, 40, 50-plus-year-old man and be wishing for more, wishing for better, waiting for him to get better, or waiting for him to improve, or waiting for him to love us the way that we want to be loved, or waiting for him to call us. And because we are nice, and we are needy, and we are available, we're probably not going to get that call. You know who is going to get that call? The woman who doesn't like him as much, or treat him like a king the way that you do. So we have to learn to love who is going to love us back in the way that we want to and deserve to be loved. Because women tend to hold on for dear sake. You know, we will give everything, we'll sacrifice everything because we want to build that man up. You're going to do what the man with the Venus opposition or the in conjunction wants from a woman. He wants you to be with him when he's nothing and invest in him and build him up. He wants you to be his fuel instead of him. And women with this opposition, especially the in conjunction, we want to be that man's fuel. We want to prove to him, I am here when nobody else believed in you. And that's fabulous if that man is worth sticking around for and sticking your neck out for, but he never is with these difficult aspects because we have a hard time with discernment in the first place. There is nothing wrong with investing somebody that you see is going somewhere. And he ain't there yet, but you know what? Let's see where this goes. It's a fabulous decision. If you see real potential there and you want to do that, but you have to make sure that you're getting a return. You have to make sure this is someone who truly, truly loves you and believes in you too. Or you end up in a situation like my aunt. In conjunction. She invested, for years she put him through medical school. She paid for all of it. And the day he graduated, he divorced her. Because it was a transactional arrangement. She just didn't know that. We don't know, as women with the hard aspects. Men with the hard aspects, they have a very good idea that that's what it should be. But women with the hard aspects, they don't have a conscious understanding that that's what they're getting involved in. It's different. No conscious awareness with women, very much conscious awareness with men. And so what do you get if you buy a cash cow? I guess the trains run on time and the boxes are all checked off, and on paper, you know, it's good. But emotionally, you don't have a chance. That's not even a real relationship. And there's a lot of selling transactional relationships these days. And that's one way to do it, but it's a lower vibrational way. It's of the old world. That kind of thing is going out of style as we get more and more into the age of Aquarius, and relationships become about harmony, harmonizing, equality, and emotional safety. You don't have emotional safety in a transactional relationship because if the contract isn't fulfilled, you're done. But when you come into real emotional maturity, when you deal with these difficult aspects, when you can get into a relationship that is about emotional safety and trust, loyalty, involvement, intimacy, that's where you see that that is what is safe. That's what's fulfilling. You learn to meet each other's wants and needs, or you just naturally do in a good relationship. There might be a little bit of adjustment or learning that needs to be done, but you shouldn't be so far apart that it's all work and no play. That's just karma. And relationships, good ones, where there is emotional safety and harmony, they are easy. That's what you need to understand and really come to embrace and believe the reality of. You can be satisfied when you make a good choice and you and your partner are both emotionally mature. You don't expect the other person to regulate you. You don't expect that the other person will be the one that meets all of your needs. And so you meet your needs first, and then you get into the relationship to have a cooperative companionship. We don't get into the relationship so we can nurse a man. Or if we're a man, we don't get into a relationship so we can nurse and then blame her because she's trying to mom us. So I was looking at the charts of prominent incel leaders, Moon Venus aspects, particularly the incel psychologist. You know the one I mean. Opposition. Andrew Tate, semi-sextile. I could go on and on and on. So, you're going to be a whiny little bitch. You're going to be a woman who attracts a whiny little bitch. Is that what you really want? Because you can have everything. You can have better. You can have what you deserve. That's your destiny. If you really want to go through the individuation process. Loneliness will be the destiny for men and women. You know, lonely, emotional women, lonely, angry men. And you don't want to get with each other. You do a lot, but you don't want to. And you could have a beautiful life with a cooperative, balanced relationship. But you have to come into your own emotional mastery first. That's the price you pay. The other person is not going to provide it for you. You know, ladies, you're not going to get with that mature, stable man until you are mature and stable. Men, you are not going to get with a woman who returns your affections and sleeps with you the way that you want to be slept with until you learn to balance your emotions, meet your own needs. So, we have a few comments here. We have a lot of comments. I'll take a few. Oh, Aria, you've been there. Oh, Shay, you got a couple of things there to figure out. Mars definitely does throw some passion into things. Oh, a few people. Women with the square. Well, you have to be careful about who you love because we do tend to overgive and then be really mad that we're not receiving. But if you give it all because you believe the more you give, the more you wait, the more you love, you know, if you're the ride or die, it doesn't result in what you want. You end up, you know, giving it all away and then there's just no return. So you have to be really careful about first who you love and then what you give. Are you spoiling somebody and thinking that they are going to do the same thing for you? They won't. Now, if it's somebody that was a good choice in the first place and we are seeing evidence of return, we're seeing that it's reciprocal, the relationship. We can spoil away because that's what we want to do. We want to give, give, give. We want to love, love, love. We want to devote. We want to cook and clean and do everything that somebody wants. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's somebody who's going to appreciate you and love you the way that you deserve. And you don't give to the point that the other person starts to feel entitled and starts to take, take, take because they are getting spoiled. You have to be careful about your level of generosity and make sure that you're holding back enough for yourself. You are putting yourself first. You're demonstrating self-worth. We don't demonstrate self-worth well when we're dealing with these aspects. And when we really come into that, well, that's when we've healed and we're going to automatically have a successful result in relationships for men and women. Um, let's see. All right, I'm going to go to the bottom, guys, and I'm going to have to wrap up. Michael, Tendery conjunction of Moon and Venus in Sagittarius opposite to Mars and Gemini. In the middle. Okay, so Mars is kind of at the midpoint, it sounds like, opposite to that conjunction. So Moon Venus together is very good. The opposition to Mars, that's going to bring in some passion. Um, just the Moon Mars opposition, we tend to experience female figures, mother women, and this is Venus too, though. This is going to be women and girlfriends, as very, very passionate and forceful and histrionic, and controlling. So you have to look at the, because on the one side you got a real nice guy thing going on, so cooperative and balanced with Moon Venus. But then there's the other side that's very competitive and very masculine. And because it's an opposition, if you do not show up with balanced, healthy, proactive masculinity, then we end up experiencing women as being very combative or emotional or difficult or angry, scary even. So men with an opposition like that, they have to get really good at healthy masculinity. And I'm not talking about the kind they're selling these days, where you just tell people what to do, throw your weight around, and show up with a paycheck and a penis, and that's all you need to do. No, healthy stuff where you're patient, you are magnanimous, you're willing to forgive, you're not reactive. Ah, Michael, that's interesting. So that's going to be a, hmm. Yes, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to put a twist on things. Um, hmm. It is going to add some complexity. But in any case, any female figures that you deal with, you're going to have to show up with enough strength and proactivity, so you don't want to cause reactivity because you're throwing it around. But you also do not want to give women or the female figures in your life, girlfriends or mother figures, um, a way or the room to dominate you. Women do not, healthy women should not be dominating in a relationship, and men should not be dominating either. And so that's the balance with that opposition, is enough strength to keep, women feeling safe and in a position where they're happy to follow and submit because they feel safe. They don't want to do the heavy lifting. But that's the thing with that opposition. If you don't get that balance right, then you get the woman who's just wants to penalize you and you end up pussy whipped, or you end up being the one that looks like a pushy narcissist. It's just such a funny balance with that one, but you can't let it get out of hand. You can't let women dominate you with that one. Just put it that way. Okay. Moon septile Venus for a woman. I don't know very much about the septile. Jessica, still looking at septiles a lot. It does tend to bring up a theme of cyclical tragedy, septiles, meaning that we go in a circle of behavior until there is a more holistic up leveling, like the rest of the personality or the character becomes more integrated, and then the septile turns on in a different way. We start making different choices because now we are more prepared to go into the unknown. Now we are prepared to make decisions that have us leaping into a different experience or different timeline. But subtitles are funny in that we just get this, the train just keeps going back to the same station and until we come, I think, and I think I don't know it to be sure. I'm still looking into this, but I think there's a link between unlocking light codes or downloading light codes in our DNA. Look that up if you don't know what it means. And when septiles really start to show up as an opportunity to surf the multiverse. Oh, Helen, yeah, you've got a rough one. Moon and Venus conjunction in conjunct to the ascendant. Yeah, that is gonna one that being one that brings up a belief, a very strong belief and um, experience of having the moon and Venus not being expressed or not being embraced at the ascendant. Because when we have an in conjunction that's behind the ascendant, it's a part of our character that's muted, that is like hidden under a bushel, so to speak. Because we got a very early message that that was not an appropriate expression. We shouldn't be like that. And so we cut ourselves off. We don't show whatever planet is in conjunct to the ascendant unless we're in very specific situations and conditions. The ascendant is what we are most of the time. It's our default behavior. It's where what we are, when you go to the store, when you interact here or there. It's not the deepest layer of who we are. It's, part of us, when I go to the grocery store, I'm like, have a nice day or you whatever. But it's not our personal self. It's the armor that we engage with the world in most of the time. The In your case, Helen, the moon, your sweetness, your vulnerability, the moon and Venus, that's a beautiful conjunction to have. I mean, you can assert your beauty and your caring at the same time. This is like the girlfriend, the wife that loves to cook and clean because those two things are combined. It's not something that's forced. It's not something that, because generosity, sumptuousness, food and family and home, that's all combined in your nature. And so that beautiful potential, to just take the utmost emotional care of those close to you, that needs to connect, needs to be embodied at the ascendant so that can be shown, advertised. We need to do it with all of our in conjunctions. We need to bring all of them to the surface and really embody that part of ourself that we have been cut off from. That's how we solve it. And then you do get your needs met. But there's a lot of potential just in that conjunction, Helen, to have a beautiful, beautiful love life, a fulfilling sensual life, to have really good stuff, to have what you want and what you need. And keep working on it. You have a lot to offer. Mm. You have a lot to offer, Helen. There would be many, many, many lucky men in this world who would love to have you gracing their home. Oh, Steph? Oh, yeah, yesterday I was talking about the 11th house and how it rules adoption and things are outside of our system of tradition, but we love and appreciate those things anyway. They're gifts. Oh, Cleora, your ex had the moon square Venus in Virgo. Yeah, some signs can make it a little bit more difficult to deal with than others. I would say that Virgo, because it adds to the critical pickiness of it, um, even Pisces can make things difficult, or the water sign, the idealistic signs can add some disappointment to this. Um, if Neptune is involved, it's probably going to make it worse. There's things that can impact it, for better or worse. Oh, Marie, you've been struggling since 2022 when Saturn passed over your moon and Jupiter squared it. And they're still stuck. Do you think North Node conjunct your moon will have you cry and let these out? That will be something that does push you towards growth, towards embracing something new. The moon is the past. Yeah, that's what we cling to in our record of what has happened. And then the North Node is what's new. That's what had me thinking about this video today, was that the moon at the South Node, and how it's very hard with the moon in difficult aspect to the North and the South Node, particularly the South Node, to embrace new, to emotionally mature towards the North Node. It's very difficult for us to embrace easy for us to embrace the cycles and the karma of the past when the moon is at the South Node. So there is this emotional immaturity that we do tend to struggle with more difficultly with the moon at the South Node square to the North and the South, in conjunct to the North and the South. So when you do have the moon and the North Node, when the North Node comes to the moon, it sounds like that is going to be that call to go towards a different dharma, a different pattern, create something new or different for yourself. So it will be a release of the past necessarily, so we can make room for what's to come. Oh, you have an almost perfect trine from moon to Aquarius, from moon to Venus. You're lucky. Those are good ones if you can get them. It makes it easy to pick partners and then to love them and be loved in ways that make sense to us and result in satisfaction and good relationships and happiness, and um, being able to identify people that are appropriate, intimate partners. All right, guys, I'm going to go for now. It was good to talk to you. It'll be interesting to check in on the comments on this video. All right. You guys have a great night, and I hope that I can connect with you tomorrow. We'll see what's going on.